It's Tuesday night. Welcome to Brewing Controversy. I'm Lucas. This is David. And if you're just joining us for the first time, you are getting a unique but not terribly infrequent vision into the nature of our friendship, which is to drink craft beer and bitch and moan about the current events in the world, usually with a liberal spin. Sometimes not liberal enough. That depends on which social group you choose to claim. Or
fuck you, tankies.
Too academic and bizarre for any normal human being to process when old man David goes down his historical roads. But always a good time. Good to see you, sir. Good to see all of you. If you're here, say hello, and we will throw you on the screen with your greetings and your comments. I'm over here with this shiner on my cheek, nicked myself shaving. I'm just going to tell everybody that Will Smith smacked me. How are you, sir?
I am well. I'm a little pissed today.
Yeah?
I went to go office chair shopping.
Oh yeah.
And so like last night, like I went and online looked at Office Depot's prices. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Now some of these are good. Maybe I need to fix up my old chair. But then I'm driving mom to and from her doctor's appointment today, and I see this sign for an Office Depot that's closing. It says 40% off, and the way I read it, and the way I feel like most people read it, was 40% off everything. Okay, well,
I mean, basically.
Yeah. So on my way back,
unless you missed an up to somewhere.
Up to 40% off.
Us sneaky marketing people like to stick those words in tiny places.
Right. So I get there, but here's the thing that really tweaked me. So I saw you and someone else talking about the Shaquille O'Neal chair, and I see it there.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I see it there, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, 40% off. You know, normally like what if I remember correctly from looking on the site, like $400. All right, $200 for that chair. I'd pay that. I can go ahead and shell that out. Oh no. So what they've done is they've done the whole bait and switch. Was they raised all the prices by a third.
There you go. That's what happens.
And then didn't even take the whole 40% off. I'm like, printer cartridges and stuff like that. And I'm looking at that, and I read the sign more carefully. 5% off printer cartridges. I'm like, that doesn't even cover the tax.
Yeah, you know, I always used to have the argument when I worked in the retail realm of my career. Two different business owners that I worked for that would try to do 10% or 15% off sales, and I would try to explain to them, you know, in Nashville, nobody gives a fuck. 10% off, nobody gives a fuck. That's tax. That's tax-free. 15 is you cheap bastard. 20 is the first place that you're talking about give a fuck. And you know, it was always an uphill climb with them. Well, we have one important announcement I forgot last week, and therefore we postponed this change. But I want to make sure everybody gets the word. We are going to slide the show back to a new time. So new time, y'all. We're going to be doing 8 for Eastern, 7 for Central, because it will get off of a lot of people's dinner time. It should make it a lot easier for people to join us, though it will run into things like tonight, because there is a Preds game at 8 o'clock tonight. So as we always tend to try to throw in when our Preds are playing, go Preds. And I have a new toy, a new fashion accessory. So tonight, to truly adopt my Go Preds, I ordered some glasses recently because I needed to use up funds that were on my spending account. And there's a really neat company called Pair where you can get regular old glasses, but then they give you a selection of these little snap-on covers. So I have my Preds glasses that I can wear on game nights.
Nice.
I also, in my first pass, nabbed the Flash and men of DC Comics, but I had like 7 or 8 of them in the cart, and I realized that at $30 a pop for the little click on, it was going to get out of hand. So there's more on the way eventually, but you know, a little at a time. So tonight it's Pred's glasses. It's an opportunity to be festive and hopeful. I think Ottawa. I don't know if they're good, but that's because I'm too casual.
The Senators are a solid team. We'll probably get our asses kicked.
Great.
Yeah. Hey, listen. That's the problem with the Preds this season. And, you know, it's been our problem the past 3 seasons. Well, no, the last season was worse because we could not figure out an offense to save our lives. This year we found some offense, but unfortunately, you know, some nights we're really on. Some nights, you know. I knew last season was going to be awful when we had our opener against the Stars and it was like 7-1. I'm like, Jesus.
Well, if you are just joining us, feel free to chime in, say hello, comment, bitch and moan, argue with us, tell us we're crazy. It's usually just me. And we're going to jump right into the first piece of our show in our brand new format. We call this Quick Rundown of Current Events, Hot Take Quickies. So obviously the one thing that no one can avoid this week, and David is already so very over it, as most of you have guessed from the show graphic this week, it's meme city for the internet. And I'm not going to go through the video because, like, if you haven't seen the video by now, you didn't care to see it. Like, I don't want to spend our airtime, you know, playing this video that everyone who wanted to see it could have seen it by now. But at the end of the day, I laughed my ass off when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and because I kind of felt like he deserved it. But also, Will Smith did the wrong thing. Both of them were wrong. It looks like it's getting to be water under the bridge unless the Academy decides to stick it to him somehow. I don't think they're stupid enough to do that after Oscar So White. It would be a really stupid move. But also, neither of these guys did any favors for topics of race in the discourse, and that's something that's unfortunate, but you know, I think they're going to get past it. But it does suck to give the racists among us the ammunition that black people be wild and everywhere, right? Like, that's just a stupid
I mean, there was so much that went wrong and so many other ways this could have been handled by everyone involved. Then again, I would also argue that both Chris Rock and Will Smith, both in their public personas and in their private personas, just seem like fucking assholes. Right?
Maybe
they just seem like perpetual, like they're not playing a character. They are just fucking assholes.
Yeah. I think. Let's see, who was it? I saw this.
I also want to say one thing real quick, because this pissed me off. The number of people, you know, because it just doesn't make any damn sense to me. And I can kind of see where maybe Will Smith, you know, took it that way. And maybe that's what set him off. Like, all these people are like, well, Will Smith's a cuckold, blah, 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 blah. His wife sleeps with other men. I'm like, motherfuckers, that's Will Smith.
These jackasses have no idea how their relationship works.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if they have an open marriage and that's how that's working, Will Smith can pretty much walk anywhere in LA, drop trowel, and have a groupie suck it. If you think he's being cuckolded,
right?
I have bad news for you. You apparently don't understand. But you know, again, it's the whole thing. You know, I would make an argument about white men feeling threatened by the sexuality of black men on a regular basis and trying to fetishize it.
That's what's always woven into that kind of thing, especially talking about Will and Jada. And you know, you're absolutely right. He can walk anywhere and get Big Willie style attention anytime on his Big Willie. Or not. I don't know. It might not be, but whatever.
I don't. I mean, like, I don't even care. Like, he doesn't even have to pick a gender. You can just be like, hey, dude, nice Starbucks.
Right.
You want to suck it? Okay, cool.
Andrew's here. He says he can't believe people are going nuclear over it, but of course they are, because that's where things have to be all the damn time.
Yep.
People feel uncomfortable because they saw a man handling shit in any other way than using words. And there's a piece of this that I'm down with that to a certain extent. And
Yep.
and I mean, there's a time and a place. I think he chose the wrong time and place, but I think there are plenty of scenarios where that's never going to go away from culture. If you're gonna fuck around and trash people's wives. I will conclude the cultural part of this by just saying, if you want to hear some great words on it, go check out Gary Chambers' Twitter account. He's the very openly pot smoking candidate for Senate in Louisiana. He's an amazing person, and he's got lots of great shit to say, and it includes all the shit that two white guys have no business fucking talking about. He has a lot of great shit to say. So if you want to have a deeper conversation about it, he's your man. I, like most of America and the world, I'm mostly just here for the memes, and that's my favorite thing. Holy shit, this was a gift to the meme verse.
Oh, man. I'm just glad that the Gowron memes made an appearance. I mean, that I didn't see that one coming, but there it is.
Right? Gowron has got to be one of my favorites. Of course, the Men in Black references. I about fell out with the Andrew Garfield texting to see if the other Peter Parker said
that was good. I saw that.
And of course, replacing the Batman and Robin slap with a new slap is just gravy. And I am not even kidding when I say that shit took maybe 3 hours. I mean, it was not long before that meme had landed, and I'm gonna use it instead of the Batman slap now. I think it definitely it has a home. So thank goodness for the contribution to memes that was made. Anyway, in all seriousness, we have to check in on the situation in Ukraine, as we always try to open our sentiments on this. Slava Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini.
Putin Kuyo. So where we're at right now is Russia is feeding a line of bullshit about a drawdown, which is really just redistributing the troops and forces and randomly bombing shit in the eastern side of the country or western side of the country, and then Ukraine's trying for a security agreement. I mean, that's basically where we're at, right?
I mean, pretty much. I think what we're looking at is Russia's now trying to make the case. They were going for regime change. They were going for all this. And they're now trying to make there's two things that they want. So one of the major reasons it seems like they've done this is this situation in Crimea, which is this. Crimea has a very strategic position in the Black Sea. It basically sticks out like a giant dick into the Black Sea. And anyone who wants to fuck anyone in the Black Sea has to control the giant Crimean dick. It also helps that it might have the second largest natural gas reserves in Europe, which Russia also wants. Crimea doesn't have something very important, though: fresh water. And the Russians' ability to build desalination plants is about the same as my ability to build, a radioplasma engine, which is to say, not at all.
Well, there's something to be said.
I know what one looks like.
I mean, they're kind of landlocked in a lot of ways. Like, they don't really need to do this thing. But that's a fair point I hadn't thought about. I don't want to give up anything, and I hope that there's a future in which it all has to be given back. But if they can find a way to negotiate something, I would prefer to beat the fuck out of Russia and take back all the territory, including Crimea. And while we're at it, take that little fucking sliver, whatever the fuck that is, on the other side of Belarus, and beat back a few other pieces of the equation.
I mean, but the point is the reason they're hitting Mariupol so hard, the reason they're going for this line is one of the first things the Ukrainians did when Crimea tried to secede was they said, "Oh, by the way, all your fresh water comes from us." So we're just going to shut that off. So a lot of what they're trying to do is they're trying to build this they need a land corridor to deliver fresh water to the Crimea, right? Because otherwise it's not really functional. It's not affordable for the Russians to hold on to Crimea.
Can they not Let's see. What's right next to it? Can they not make a deal with... Really? Something ain't right here. I'm getting only Russian names for shit. What's north of Georgia? First person says Chattanooga.
Russia.
Fuck off. Um,
Russia is north of Georgia.
What's Krasnodar? Oh, it's part of. Well, why don't they fucking handle it there?
Because you mean take it over the Sea of Azov?
I mean,
the problem is that the laws of navigation make it so that the Ukrainians can still threaten the freshwater pipeline.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's just it's not that wide at the Kerch Strait.
No.
I mean,
so
the like that, but whatever.
But
I don't really give a fuck if they ever
they
solve
want
the
to run a
problem.
freshwater a pipeline for fresh water all the way from Russia through eastern Ukraine, all across the coast, all the way down to Crimea to make it work. This is where the Ukrainians are making a big stink and saying, no, we will not concede 1 square meter of Ukrainian territory.
Nor should they.
We do not validate this. And honestly, I think Zelensky's in a good position right now to say, no, that isn't an acceptable piece.
Well, they've already given up too much anyway. Crimea was too much. I was pissed at Obama and stay pissed at Obama about not doing more for
well, I mean,
handling that shit.
We're not going to go into the whole, like, there won't be World War III. And if there is World War III, it's already fucking here. We need to get fucking used to it and get on board.
I mean, I've cynically believed that a cyber, if you want to use that antiquated terminology, digital...
You and your crazy cyber war.
Digital World War III was already in effect as soon as a candidate for president begged for help on camera live. Andrew points out the Russian military is so not sexy, and apparently we've had bad intel that didn't tell us that they were so not sexy. Without the off-ramp... we will become involved, and I think he's right. It's a true risk. Though I love seeing the beatdown, giving Russia a reality check, and you, sir, beat CNN to open discussion of the Azov Brigade, which you talked about. I don't think it was last week, like maybe a week before.
Yeah, apparently I beat Greenwald too, which really made me feel offended because then Greenwald and I were talking about the same thing, which made me have to go take a shower.
Well, it's funny to see that, stuff that we chit chat here about that's more, we tend, especially with you, we tend to get kind of academically nerdy about this socio-political, socioeconomic, especially world scale stuff. Well, it's just because I want in your pants. I'm grooming you, David. Haven't you heard?
Oh God.
We're gonna work our way around to that. Don't worry. But anyway, I thought it was cool that you beat CNN to really featuring a topic of discussion. So I wanted to brag about it for a minute, and hopefully it'll encourage people to lean in a little, because sometimes the stuff that we're noticing when we banter ends up being a thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Azov Brigade is a serious problem, and the problem is the issue is it's one of those things that the Ukrainians, it's very much like the old adage, the American adage about slavery. It's a wolf that you're holding by the neck. You don't want to be holding a wolf by the neck, but you don't dare let it go. Now, in the case of American, I want to be very clear. In the case of American slavery, that was bullshit. That was a lot of fucking bullshit. In the case of Ukraine, the problem is I have a fully armed, functional brigade. Well, not a full brigade. It's more like probably about 5 companies worth of men. But they have their own engineering, team to maintain their equipment. They have training. They seem to do a good job. They are also, however, fucking Nazis. So
what slight defect?
I mean, I get where they're coming from when they because they did fold the Azov. One thing I didn't mention is they did fold the Azov Brigade several years ago into the Ukrainian National Guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they knew what they were doing, but the problem is, from Ukraine's perspective, it's very much like the Ukraine in World War II. Ukraine in World War II was not pro-Nazi, but they were a hell of a lot more anti-Russian than they were anti-Nazi. So the Nazis show up and they say, "Hey, how you doing? we don't really like you, but we like the Russians less too. And yes, a lot of Ukrainians therefore kind of looked at the Nazis and said, it's
Enemy
not
of
that
my
bad.
enemy.
Right. I mean, and so it's the same thing with the Azov Brigade. Are the Azov Brigade fucking assholes? Yes. And in an ideal world, would we like, should they all be lined up against a wall and castrated and then shot? Yes.
Yes, right.
But I mean,
Well,
it's Ukraine's dealing with what they've got. They're using the tools of what they have at hand. I mean, hell, they've turned the apex predator of the Russian tank into is now the Ukrainian tractor.
yeah, really. Yeah, for real. Well, I'm glad to see the tide turning slightly, even though it's not really having any change in the overall humanitarian crisis. It is militarily improving, and I was really glad to see Uncle Joe say the quiet, true part out loud.
Yeah, that was nice.
I just wish he would have doubled down and said, "Yeah, you're goddamn right. Regime change is our policy. Fuck off. The guy needs to go."
Because the issue is Russia has set that as very explicitly as a red line, right? Russia has said very explicitly that if you call for regime change, we will consider that an act of war. And Uncle Joe doesn't want to go to war with Russia.
Right.
I would argue, as I have argued with many people, that it is better that we go to war with Russia right now.
Yes.
While they're disorganized.
Yes.
And while they're only, this is the thing. We want to put them in a situation where their only choice is either to pull back from the Ukraine, pull back to their borders and defend their borders, or kick it or kick off the big firecracker. And no one wants to kick off the big firecracker.
Well, and that's Andrew points out he'd like to keep the nukes off the table and just kick their ass. And that was one of the discussion topics on your favorite show, Bill Maher's Real Time, over the last week. He had some guys on there talking about the fact that you get to choose how to respond. You can choose to escalate, or you can choose to meet unnecessary force, maybe a small tactical nuke, meet that with heavy standard warfare. And I could see a scenario where, Putin decides to pop off and level a city with a tactical nuke, and we instead give the full powder keg and brass treatment to everything he's got in country, and he has nothing left.
You do get to respond. That's true. But the problem is that we have made it very clear in our doctrine for 70 years, and it's helped stop a lot of conflict to say, if someone uses weapons of mass destruction against us, we will, not may, will retaliate in kind. We will pop off a nuke again, at least a nuke against them. So yes, it is a choice. I mean, here's the thing that I got into a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and it's the how we ended up with this level of confusion about what's going on. In 1970, the Soviets had 80 tank divisions along the Russian border. This is not including Poland or Czechoslovakia or Hungary or any of the other Warsaw Pact nations. They had 80 tank divisions along the Russian border. We had 10 tank divisions in West Germany to defend against those 80. Our only hope of stopping the 80 tank divisions the Soviets were going to throw at us was to nuke them. That was it. There was no other solution to dealing with that. And what compounded that is the Russians clearly understood that. The Russians understood the only way we were going to stop 80 tank divisions was to drop nukes on those divisions. And so the Russian policy then became to nuke us before we could launch our nukes against the tank divisions. And that's what created mutually assured destruction. Yeah. The difference, and I keep on repeating this, and I know I've repeated this scenario again and again, the difference today is this. The Russians don't have 80 fucking tank divisions on the border anymore. We definitely don't have 10 divisions anymore, but the divisions that we do have are a hell of a lot more advanced than anything the Russians have. Also, the whole idea of how we fight wars
Apparently, a radio flyer wagon with a slingshot is in better shape than most of the Russian fucking tanks.
Dude, have you seen the pull aparts from the Russian drones? It's all off the shelf.
Yeah,
it's all off the shelf.
Well,
It's so bad.
speaking of warfare, let's come domestic for a second, because we're through with the back and forth tit for tat garbage of the SCOTUS hearing. So we're going to move on into the hopefully inevitable phase of Democrats and maybe even a couple Republicans getting in line to confirm Jackson soon. I think that the date they have set is April 4th, and I love that. Can you guess why I love that, you history nerd?
I should be knowing something here, and I don't.
Early morning, April 4, a shot rings out in the Memphis sky.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be a very interesting date for this. Also, now that the hearing is over, it means that Josh Hawley can do something else with his stupid mouth, and I brought a suggestion. So, I wish I could put that exists without the digitized thing, of course, but I learned my lesson doing the same thing to Trump once, that that's a quick way into all the jails of all the networks. And speaking of sticking it to dumbfuck conservatives about gay things, I think it's really interesting that there's a huge fundraising effort going on right now with the Southern Progress PAC to put up a shitload of billboards that say gay in Florida. So if you're into doing something with your spare cash, because we're all just flush these days, right? SouthernProgressPAC.com. I think that would be a great way to throw around a little bit of the money. So back home for me, at home where you are, Titans new stadium. That's being talked about.
You know what? The only thing I can say is at least it's not as bad as the deal that New York State and the Buffalo Bills cut.
I mean, I'm on the fence. Like, on one hand,
it's not 500. I mean, no, I'm sorry.
absolutely.
The NFL makes enough money to borrow the required funds. The NFL makes enough money that they can go to a bank.
Yep.
And say, I need to have a 30-year loan to build new capital assets.
But is
like
it the NFL or
goddamn business?
Is it the NFL or the Titans organization, though, that has to do that? Of course,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The NFL,
situation.
The Titans organization makes more than enough money to go to the NFL to go to a bank, any bank,
yeah,
and say, I want to borrow to improve capital assets.
Well, dipshit HVAC salesman Governor Lee has rolled out with the offer to boost in $500 million in bonds.
It should have nothing. No, it should be nothing.
It should be nothing. Initial estimate was $600 million for the job, which would put the city on the hook for $100 million. I'll be the first to admit it is old, busted, ugly, dirty 90s garbage. Yes, it is. It is outdated. It is fucking stupid. And Nashville,
it's not that bad.
It's pretty funky, man. It's pretty funky. I didn't understand how funky it was till I went to the Benz Stadium and saw a Falcons game.
Oh,
and I realized, number one, way nicer stadium. Number two, they put on a way better show.
I want to point out that as a native Nashvilleian, I'm used to War Memorial for so long.
But yeah, I mean, I get.
So for those of you who don't know, War Memorial used to be Municipal Auditorium.
It's still Municipal Auditorium. War Memorial is that historic yet neglected shit behind.
It depends. You pick either of them. They're both
old.
Even when I was a kid, it was still like, Jesus, I think that gum is from 1960. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. But I mean, like, it wasn't. Listen, I'm not gonna sleep on the floor there. But I mean, I'm not there to sleep on the floor. I'm there to sit down and watch a game. More than likely, when I was a kid, and my dad would take me to the Nashville Knights games.
Yeah.
Which was our old hockey team. Yeah, I mean that's right.
So
I'm used to a certain level of civic neglect. So maybe that's why I don't think that the Titans need a new stadium yet.
Well, and I see all the sides of that coin, but I definitely think the financing piece of it, they should just fucking pony up, and Nashville should stick it out. I told Cooper when he was running, and I would tell Mayor Cooper the same thing now. Dude, quit negotiating like you're Huntsville or Birmingham. You're fucking Nashville. Look at everybody and say, if you want a piece of this, you got to pay for it. No more breaks. And does Nashville need a Super Bowl? Like they talk about, oh, well, we can't draw a Super Bowl. Well, what the fuck, man? Like,
I don't give a shit.
How bad does it have to get?
I mean,
how unaffordable?
This is something that I wish people would understand about how Nashville works, which is we are 10 pounds of people shoved in a 5-pound sack. Okay,
maybe 15 pounds of people at this
right.
point.
I mean, it is in the and it isn't just the housing; it's also the infrastructure.
Yeah,
I mean,
the whole equation is fucked, and
the whole. I mean, and now they're anticipating that we're going to get at least another 1 million people over the next 5 to 6 years.
And let's remember that everybody required to run a stadium can't afford on their wages to live in Nashville. Or apparently an hour and a half radius.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's insane. It is literally insane how ugly it's gotten in the city. And I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm like, we're headed for Detroit. We are headed for Detroit.
Boy, I hope not. I mean, now I don't trash Detroit, and I don't put up with trashing Detroit at this point. I think it's on a rebound, and it was always given a shitty rap.
No, it got a shitty rap because it had black people.
The example is valid.
I mean, like what happened with Detroit was lots of people made a shit ton of money. And in Nashville, it's not, it's not even the record industry, because the record industry can't give a shit anymore. It's all digital. It's the real estate developers.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the real estate developers who are making, I mean, even during the 2008 crisis, do you want to know what happened to housing prices in Nashville? They kept going up. They have never stopped going up for 30 years at this point. It is now becoming a game of musical chairs of how much is too much.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that because it started so low in price, there's still room for them to bid each other up before the bubble pops. But when the bubble pops,
it's going to be ugly.
Holy shit, dude. It's going to be the number of people who are going to lose their shirts, the number of people who are going to be left living in apartment buildings that are going to become slums.
Yes.
Because the landlords that own them, it's a losing proposition. The only purpose of owning that apartment building at that point will be as a tax write-off.
Well, speaking of giant buildings filled with overpriced space that's destined to become cracked in the future, one of my former events is coming up in the Hyatt, the Grand Hyatt, where they appear to be betting their entire economy on the success of their event, and they're currently facing a meltdown of wokeness cannibalism that I've been thoroughly enjoying. And I'm not talking about it based on the personal stake. What I want to talk about is yet another example of how the attempt to bandwagon and fight villains that you have to invent in our culture is causing a lot of meltdown. Not just the Nashville fandom culture, but like in general, there are bubbles of people everywhere that are creating a scenario where no one is left. Essentially, it's the old cowboy trope of guns pointed in a circle, and lots and lots of pieces of our culture that sought to, I believe in the original intent of a lot of these movements, people wanted to do the right thing, and then people co-opted it to get attention and make themselves feel better and give themselves a sense of worth and relevance by trashing other people. And you're seeing it start to crack in a lot of circles, big and small.
Can I give a side example? That's very similar. So it's called the Bail Project, and what it started out was very simple. We don't think cash bails are fair. We raise money. We go to the courthouse. We help argue for lower cash bails, but then when you owe bail, instead of you having to go to a bail bondsman, we would like to try and be there and pay your bail. Great. So a couple of years ago, I'm sure some of you may have paid attention, some of you may not. People started to make a big deal about bail is unfair.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden this group got a shit ton of money. And now they're in trouble because they don't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've been going around paying like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 bails. They stay away from the super high dollar amount bails because they're like, that's probably not a good idea. But they don't know what to do with the money.
So it's the dog catching tires thing.
It is. It is the dog catching tires. I would argue that, I mean, some of the groups that you identify, sometimes you identify as enemy that I don't. I think we could both agree that there are elements within those movements that are the dog that's caught the tire thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the problem, is they've caught the tire and now they're just flapping around being drugged by the car.
Well, in this case, and I don't want to name names. I personally name names, people that know what's going on, but there's a situation in the Middle Tennessee fan community that a person who there's no way in hell did anything wrong and has already been absolved by authorities is being dragged now on the internet because the person that supposedly has an issue decided to rekindle the story, and the organization at hand, and this is where the dog caught the tire, they don't have the balls to own their authority and say this has been investigated and determined to be false. We're sorry. We wish that we could help, but this is over and done with. And in our culture, we're seeing a lot of that where organizations either have the sack to stand up and say, no, ladies and gentlemen, this is how adults work, or they don't, and they continue to entertain this whining. I mean, imagine a world where the pansy ass idiots that signed a petition to remake the Star Wars movies. Imagine a world in which that worked. It's a negotiating with terrorists kind of topic.
Well, no, I mean, and you know my position on this. I just want to say this real fast, which is always the only way you stop a lynch mob is you start dropping bodies.
Right.
That's the only way you stop a lynch mob. You make the cost of them continuing to try and lynch people so abhorrent that it does not even enter their mind again. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm agreeing with Pica on something. This is. I need another shower.
Well, I'm not trying to avoid naming the names of the organization. I don't know, fucking nobody has to do any research to find that shit out. I'm just trying not to help spread the name of the person that probably did nothing wrong around them.
No. It's.
And to be fair, I'm also trying not to use the name of the batshit chronic liar that has accused him. So
yeah, there we go. That's fair. That's fair.
So anyway, this is the part of the show where we stop talking about our random shit and we do one of two drinking sessions. And we've done this because we know that we would like to talk about more beer and David would like to drink more beer. And I've had to find a limit because David's schedule is such that he's not as demanded upon at 9 a.m. the day after this. I can't do
no,
that.
I am still asleep at 9 a.m.
So we've moved things around now. If you're just joining the new format for the first time, we've got 2 different breaks. We're already drinking some beer and we're going to talk about it right now. And if you have something that you want to bring up, throw it in the comments, compliment it, tear it a new asshole if it's what it needs. Poke a hole in that can and shotgun that shit if it sucks, because it's time for What Ya Drinking? All right, David, what you drinking?
As I try not to spill this all over the floor, Maggie's Irish Ale from.
Hey, look at that! You got the focus too. That's from right down the road from me.
From Saugatuck Brewery. I don't know. Oh shit! No,
Yeah, but the consequence is you lost the focus.
I did. No, come back.
So that is Saugatuck Brewing, Maggie's Irish Ale.
It'll
It's a
fix
red
it.
ale.
I'll fix it in a moment. No.
Yeah.
So this is it's labeled as a Irish ale. Trying to fix the
I think if you
focus.
just lean your face in, you'll have better luck. Not that any of us need to see that, but yeah, there you go.
It's getting a little better. There it goes. Kind of.
No, you've had a complete focus. Oh, there it is. Complete focal meltdown. Now I'll make you bigger. Talk about that ale.
No, so it's labeled as an Irish ale. I don't know what's typically very Irish about it.
Well, beautiful mahogany color, well-rounded flavors, caramel and tea with subtle hints of malt.
It's got a little bit of the tea, but you know what? You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Wiseacre, their Earl Grey series. With the Earl Grey and lemon flavored beer. Which was really good as an IPA.
Remember that.
This is, I mean,
fine. You can say fine.
I wouldn't kick it out of bed for eating crackers, but
yeah,
it's not. It's just a little bit of tea flavor and honey, and I get some malt notes.
That's on brand. Hints of malt, dry finish. Is it dry?
It is a little dry, but
good.
You know,
I like it dry.
I think what's destroying it is the tea comes back is the problem. That's what the problem is. The tea shows up in the front, and then you get the honey, and then the tea shows up in the back, and it just,
gotcha.
You know, when an IPA finishes bitter, it normally finishes bitter with a citrus note and sort of this clean taste of dry in the back. This has this kind of a tack dry in the back. In other words, it's sour without any redemption.
That makes sense. And probably, well, yeah, I would say that other one had the lemon going for it too, with the citrus.
Yeah, because that's normally what you use in a lot of beers to complement the bitter. And this, what I'm getting is, I mean, the front end is fantastic. I love the front end on this. It has a wonderful, like, sort of tea and then honey.
And it's a 5.4, so it's not going to knock you on your ass.
No,
you could drink
it has
several
tea and
of
then honey,
them.
but then it tries to finish. And the thing is, it's not even a particular. Maybe as a Southerner, I'm a little offended by it because what it remind. No, because the tea on the back end of this it's like Lipton.
That makes sense.
It's like Lipton tea.
Well, I am up here in the land of unsweet tea. Saugatuck is about 30 miles away, and we took an accidental trip to Saugatuck a couple weeks ago. We were on our way to New Holland to pick up pre-ordered beer in Holland.
I remember this story.
Yeah, and we're just cruising along, and it was a little bit snowy and frosty, and I was trying to keep my eyes on the road, and I hadn't paid attention, and I realized a couple miles after we had passed Holland, like, I'm pretty sure that we've gone too far. And it turned out the next exit was Saugatuck. So we stopped in Saugatuck, had brunch, and we happened to be there. We were on a time schedule and in a location where we didn't end up stopping at Saugatuck Brewing. So I'm going to go back and check out Saugatuck. But downtown Saugatuck was really cool. And it was St. Patty's weekend, and they were having a dog parade, the Aaron Go Bark dog parade for St. Patty's Day. So Andrew says that sounds like it's the divorce of beer.
Right?
That's a good way to put it.
It starts out like a good idea, and then like you get to the end, and it's just like, we're just bitter about this.
Well, I have my final New England selection for now from Vermont. I've been in the Von Trapp Golden Helles. So this is by the family that inspired the sound of music. Go look it up. It's not a lie. A little of Austria, a lot of Vermont. Here's the can. It's a pretty cool looking, like, traditional beer can design. I dig it. Anyway, it's exactly what you expect. It's a throw it back, drinkable golden lager. It's not icky.
Helles usually isn't. It
But it's
should be a little bit lighter, shouldn't it?
It's not like, oh wow. It is a little light. It's let's see what the billing is here.
Yeah.
German word for bright. Our golden lager displays a floral hop aroma with a bready malt balance. They're giving it a lot of character credit that I don't think comes through. I'm not sitting here going, ooh, that and that.
No, I mean, a Helles lager is normally like, if not for the fact that everyone's trying to showcase their friggin' Marzens, like that would be Oktoberfest, right? It would just be like everyone just being like, well, what do we have a lot of that has at least some sort of character? Yeah, throw out the Helles, man.
Right. Well, it's pretty good. It's not the that you sometimes get from a lager, and there are plenty out there that are yucky. So that is the first two that we're throwing back, and now it's time to jump in. For those that weren't here last week, we've adopted a new plan where somebody brings a topic that they're particularly passionate about, and then we jump into a bigger discussion after our second beer round. So right now, you have been talking today about jumping in on the latest Qanon takeover shit.
Play the Michigan clip.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good thing to start with here. So this is something that we talked about on a post this afternoon on the page, but here's the whole spread on some Q nuttiness. That's a really good recent example of the shit that's weaving its way into the GOP, or the GQP as we should call it.
I need to address something else, not just to you as the board, but to parents and grandparents and taxpayers in our community. Still wrapping my brain around this a little bit, but yesterday I heard something and I was stunned. And today I am equally stunned and a little bit upset. Well, not a little bit, a lot of bit upset, furious. I would even use that word, but I want to talk about the fact that, and I know this is going on nationwide, so it is not just for this board, but our community needs to understand that the agenda that is being pushed through our schools is, just my opinion, but somewhat nefarious when it comes to some of the activities. So let's talk about furries. It was addressed by a child a couple months ago that they are put in an environment where there are kids that identify as a furry, a cat or a dog, whatever. And so yesterday I heard that at least one of our schools in our town has in one of the unisex bathrooms, a litter box for the kids that identify as cats. And I am really disturbed by that. And I will do some more investigation on that. I know it's going on nationwide. I know it is. It's part of the agenda that's being pushed. I don't even want to understand it. But I think that people need to be aware of it, because I am really upset as a parent that my child is put in an environment like that. And I'm all for creativity and imagination, but when someone lives in a fantasy world and expects other people to go along with it, I have a problem with that. So I'm just putting that out there. I will investigate more.
I just can't not laugh at that daffy bitch. Andrew said it all. What the literal fuck? Okay, so some people may have wondered, like, where's this weaving of topics? Well, I covered a little bit of fandom because it was on theme, because furries are a piece of nerd culture. I don't understand it. And I always looked at it when I was running cons going, oh, God, do we have to? Fine. They can have their meetup. But nobody unzips for a schlong. That shit stays behind closed doors. But furry fandom / community, it's people that wear full body animal suits and they have varying degrees of bullshit. Like there always used to be a couple of really friendly ones that would just hang out and entertain kids and just be happy go lucky. And then there were a few that you were like, "Ooh, yeah, they're gonna do things later.
Yeah.
But saying that it's identifying and considering it's some kind of
this is the problem with that I have with Q
all
the time.
David, it's important to realize it's like saying you identify as a Trekkie,
right?
It's like saying that you're like they don't wear their Trek uniform to school, and these kids don't wear their fursuit to school.
Put Andrews up there. Put Andrews up. It's kind of, so it can be for some people.
Be sexual.
But here's the real problem. I want to get away from the whole furry thing because I don't think that's happening at all.
No,
because
it's not.
this is a situation of when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. Why would there be cat litter in a school?
Right.
I want to point this out. Why would there be cat litter in a school? Because people shit and piss and throw up on things. And you know what's really good at soaking up those things? Cat litter! Cat litter is really good at those things! Cat litter is really good at those things! Why?
Also, the average dipshit would have no idea if they were looking at cat litter or the absorbent product that's made for the purposes of industrial cleaning of
seriously, no, but that's the thing. Most school, it's the industrial product is expensive.
Yes,
cat litter is cheap.
So
that's the point. Is the reason you go buy cat litter?
Classic QAnon bullshit scenarios where someone can weave together a whole bunch of unrelated shit and invent a reality, and it's an example. It's not the only thing.
If you know what cat litter is used for in cleanup, which is cleaning up piss, shit, and vomit, and it's in a bathroom at a public school. That makes perfect
and
fucking
it was apparently
sense.
It was apparently 100% bullshit, made up, and this has led me to wonder. You know, QAnon had its origins in the Chans. QAnon was born in the 4chan, 8chan underbelly of the internet, and this makes me start to believe. I'm starting to wonder if there's just a bunch of cynical, probably libertarian, neckbeard basement dwellers that are all Chan haunters that just keep pumping out this dumb shit because they know that jackass twats like that woman are out there ready to believe you, and it's just, oh my god,
I cannot explain enough how much I hate this person.
And the best part is that this was just outside of Detroit, right down the road,
and the thing is, they took it to the floor of the state legislature. That's actually the clip I thought you were going to.
Iowa had the same thing happen, and
it's incredible that this is I can't. But I mean, the point is,
this is just one thing, one crazy thing.
No, but and right now in Dallas, you have the people drinking from the communal bleach bowl, waiting for JFK to return. JFK Jr. Pardon me. Not the other JFK. The original JFK is very much dead, but JFK Jr., who died in a plane crash in 1998, is going to magically return, and it's we need to acknowledge what's happened to the GOP, and the thing is, it's not Q that's the problem.
Stupidity. That's the
GOP, the Republican Party, and I say this as someone who used to work for them, realized they had a problem. No one wanted to vote for assholes. It's that simple. No one wanted to vote for assholes. No one wanted to vote for people who told you that everything is your fault and you should worship the ground that the wealthy walk on. No one wanted. I mean, no one wanted to say like, "Hey, we're bigots. and we kind of like being bigots, but we like couching it in a different language.
Right.
But you should vote for us. And then every time they turned around, the very principles of what the GOP has become, which I want to point out in the 1980s, they were not this, right?
No, it was
They
a
were small. They were small
difference.
government, less taxes.
Yeah,
but they were not irrational, and they've grown more rational. And as I would argue, in large part due to wealth inequality in the nation,
yeah.
and where they're getting their money from.
You can
But
only defend a concept of shaking people down and lying to regular folks that they'll eventually be powerful and rich like you. You can only do that for so many generations before it cracks.
Yeah.
And people start to say, well, now wait a minute.
Well, no, you can only do it for so many election cycles. Fuck generations.
Well, right. Fair enough.
Right? Because I mean, the GOP wasn't. It has become. And you're right,
points out it's a cult.
It has become a cult. I want to get to where it's gotten culty, which is, and why it's gotten that way. And I guess I had to sit down and think about this the other day. Like, how the hell did we fucking end up here? Like, honestly, how the hell did we end up with a cult on one side and a party that is semi-functional at best of times on the other side, trying to govern?
I'm interested in your take on this because I wonder if it's the same as what I assume.
So what the GOP ran into was, with their donors, they couldn't find a way to sell the product, right? The product being the GOP to voters.
Yes.
So they started looking around for, like, how can we sell our product? How can we sell shit? How can we sell what is effectively shit or is turned into shit?
Wait, David, do you mean horse shit?
Horse shit? We need a fake we need like a fake like audience applause for some of this stuff. But
well, in my wish list of techno gadgets is a little soundboard where I can sit here and when we finally release the audio only versions to go along with this, we'll have to have sounds. I don't know what horse shit sounds like, but it's probably something along the lines of
they started looking for a way to market what they had better, right? And the only place that they could find was social media. Social media was the salvation of the GOP, and it was clickbait headlines to generate outrage and therefore engagement. Mm-hmm. Right. It's one of the reasons why Facebook, every time we do an audit of Facebook, they are more conservative friendly than they are liberal friendly, because while liberals can get fucking enraged without question, and they can get clickbaity rage too.
But it's motivational.
The same level of clickbaity rage, however, is not found on the left as it is on the right.
Right.
And
it kind of goes back to what you used to always posit when we talked about, the Republican Party's aims. What are they for? And it's different when you're reacting against. And that's what they're good at, is getting stupid people to believe terrible shit and have them react against it. And it's a lot harder to get people to act on aspiration. So the left is an aspirational concept. The right is I don't want to say conservative, but a retention strategy. But power and race inequality and the dominance of the fictional dominance of the smallest religion on the face of the planet. They only stand for a threat to the way things are.
But and that's what it's become. Like the reason they've embraced Q, the reason they keep on falling down further and further and further down this rabbit hole, is it has to continue to be clickbaity. Mm-hmm. It can't be governing.
Right.
I mean, let's look at 2018. right? Did the Republican Party publish a platform? No, they didn't. Let's look at 2020. Did the Republican Party publish a platform of what are we for? No. What they need is this clickbait. They keep on going further and further and further and further and further. And they need to keep the most insane engaged, because these people have to constantly find connections where there are none. They have to constantly find outrage where there is none. Like fucking cat litter. I mean, but
if it wasn't
literally every time I say that, like there's an entire section of my brain where they're like neurons are firing and screaming at the very concept that would possibly exist. Like there's an entire section of my brain now devoted to screaming about holy shit, you're that fucking stupid.
They really do spend a hell of a lot of time on bathrooms and child porn. I mean,
because they're easy. I mean, like here's the thing.
Josh Hawley's, big black dick fetish aside.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I get that it's the thing that plays on everything that we all
know.
Best.
We all know that's where Mrs. Cruz gets her satisfaction.
And speaking of Ted Cruz, that's part of this game, right? Like during the hearing, he said they were berating her about defining a woman and stuff, and he said, well, I mean, apparently we live in a world where today I can say I identify as a woman, tomorrow I can go back to identifying as a man. He kind of has a point there, but then he jumps right off the rails to, can I just say I'm Asian today? And it's like the same thing as they identify as cats. Like this, and the sinister mission, and there's a link to an article in the post that we had earlier this afternoon. The sinister mission here isn't even just the votes and the panic and the response and the clickbait, but it's the othering, and it's the exact same ploy as trying to paint gay people as pedophiles.
And I'm going to point something out.
It's basically saying if you recognize trans, which I struggle with as an old school 90s raised dude.
I mean, okay? I will be 100% honest. I fuck up my pronouns on a regular basis, and then but here's the thing. Then I apologize.
If you accept trans, you have to accept furry if they make this the same thing. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it all the same. And I can't just lay that brinksmanship on the right, David.
I'm pretty sure most furries don't want to go tread in those waters. The
Correct.
vast majority of furries want to say like, "Hey, listen, I put on a costume. Maybe I would do weird butt stuff on the weekends." I mean, that's
their goddamn business.
thing. It's not equivalent to someone transitioning full time to being it's like the arguments, like, and some of our mutual friends I've had to call out over the issue with Leah Thomas. Is that her name? Am I remembering that name correctly? The trans swimmer.
Oh,
you're looking it up.
Let's see. Leah, Lia. Yeah, Leah Thomas.
Leah Thomas. So I mean, like, and they're like, well, she was a man, and now she's beating up, like, she's no different than a man because she's winning against all the women, without realizing that when she began transitioning, she went from a top tier male athlete, and thanks to hormone replacement therapy, went to a not very good male athlete, and then had to work her way back up without the testosterone in her system to give her that muscle advantage. I mean, it's bad understanding of biology. It's bad understanding of science. It's bad understanding of history. I mean, if you look at other societies in India, Thailand, most Southeast Asian cultures, most African cultures, Native American cultures, all recognize the existence of fluid gender identity, right? And we're trying to build all this bullshit off of oh god, I can't remember the film. It's a really cool analysis. It has one actress actually playing the part of men and women through 400 years of history. And the cool thing is that at some points she's identified as a woman, but at other points she's identified as a man. And you look at and part of the point is like you look at how people are dressed and like, well, in Elizabethan England, it was sexy for a man to be very feminine. In 50 years later, it was still sexy to appear in very silly, frilly clothes, but to be very, I am masculine and I will fight you. Which it was not attractive in Elizabethan England to do that.
Yeah.
So, and then you go forward a little bit in time to, roughly before World War I, and it's attractive, especially for aristocratic men, to be, well, just short of gay.
The word is foppish, David. No, actually, that's a little bit older.
And then you hit World War I, and now it's not attractive to be foppish. Now you need, and it is very, it's silly and it's stupid. And I wish we didn't have
bonkers. Andrew says at what point is about? We're already at bonkers. And he points out pretending
bonkers
you're a cat.
was like seriously like 5 exits ago, dude.
Yeah,
like
you're a cat.
We are seriously out in a Nebraska cornfield searching for a gas station.
Pretending you're a cat is not the same as identifying as a different gender. Yes, reasonable people know that. Unfortunately, most of the reasonable people seem to be on the left or don't give a shit in the middle. This is a wider cultural issue, though, David, and this is why I get so pissed off about the crusaders that are trying to find predators everywhere. When we make everything equivalent to sexuality and gender and trans, etc., or we make every misstep the worst thing possible, we are being Brinksman in an irresponsible sense. And I say that in the everybody has to be Harvey Weinstein if they ever say the wrong thing to a woman. Not true. Okay,
I get your point. I do get your point.
Hold on.
Okay.
They want us to think that everything has to be accepted. So they're trying to say, well, you can't accept trans because you can't accept the litter box and the cat children. And then with this Will Smith thing, all violence is an indicator of abuse. Like, come on, y'all. There are gradients on all angles. And I don't think we have a society that's
Jada Pinkett Smith would cut it the fuck off. I'm pretty sure.
You're right. In fact, I pointed out to the person that posited the idea. They said people who hit people, and I said, or people who get hit people, because Jada strikes me as a possibility. And so I'm just saying, if we're going to go there, let's be equal about it. It doesn't have to be about the dude automatically. So we don't have levels and gradients on any angle in the popular conversation.
And
we do in reasonable people's minds.
Maybe that all feeds back to the main part. Before I say this, I want to point out one other thing. The whole because you mentioned it earlier, and I completely got sidetracked. The whole bathroom thing about transgender and all this. When's the last time we had to have a whole conversation about bathrooms? And I'll tell you, it's the 1960s. Why were we having a whole conversation about bathrooms? Because Phyllis Schlafly wanted to be very angry that black women could use the same bathroom as white women. Why was Phyllis Schlafly upset that black women could use the same bathroom as white women? Well, because she was convinced that black women were going to somehow entice white women to have sex with black men in the women's bathroom. I want to repeat that one more time because yes, you weren't having a stroke, right? That black women were going to go into the same bathrooms as white women, and then somehow convince white women in the same bathroom to have sex with black men.
Like the idea that somebody just comes in.
I'm not going to lie. I just sacrificed so many brain cells for you all by repeating that again, because I already
saying it out
knew
loud
a few soldiers
just
were going to
doesn't
fall
help.
in the fight. But God damn it, I did it again for you, the viewer. What the hell?
I don't think we've seen the bottom. I don't think we have.
Oh no, not even. We're not even close.
I don't think we've seen the bottom.
It's going to get worse. I mean, it's going to get so much worse. We're going to have like a new AIDS level panic from the right about things. They're going to try and do the most awful things, and again, as always, because it's stupid, they're going to break. Because they're stupid. They are not smart at these things. Andrew Large, you are quite correct. It is Jim Crow. It is. I can do it. I can do things. I can do things.
You were slow to click, so I clicked for you.
I clicked for me.
I thought you were looking and not seeing it, so I did it for you.
But
yeah, that's a.
You know what? We did it at the same time, Lucas. We did it at the same time.
Was it good for you?
Yeah, it was okay.
Well, the sound of me slowly chipping away at the cap of a bottle of beer can only mean one thing. The Millennium Falcon bottle opener has been deployed.
Let me wrap up with one thing. The GOP has become obsessed with this because that's how they stay in power. If they keep on running this outrage machine without having to engage with governing, the reason we ended up here with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert is it's not a party of governing anymore. It's a party of social media. It's a party of clicks and likes and outrage and Facebook and Twitter. And I gotta be honest, as someone who loves technology and loves freedom of speech, if we got rid of both those things tomorrow, it would be inconvenient. It would be unfortunate. It might, however, help save democracy.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's the reason that we've diversified where we go with this show.
Yep, that's right.
You never know when it's going to be untenable or rightfully destroyed. Well, we've come to that time. A very important time that we get more beer.
Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the second of our rounds. If you're out there drinking them, crack your next one open. It's time for another round.
All right.
I'm going to go first this time. You went first.
I need to clean this out real fast because I'm about to put an IPA where I've just been drinking a stout.
Go wash that.
Yeah, I need to go wash this real fast.
So I'll jump in first on this, and I also forgot that we have our cute little beer graphic. So now it's time for dessert. I am diving into the Founder's Velvet Rush. So it's pretty. One of these days it might focus. There you go. So Founder's Velvet Rush. This is Imperial Brown Ale infused with coffee, chocolate, vanilla extract, milk, sugar, aged in bourbon barrels. I believe I did this one on a fresh review a couple weeks, 3 weeks ago, a while ago, whatever. It's an 11%er, so this should be a nice way to finish off. It's part of the Barrel Age series, not to be confused with the Mothership series for whom the shirt applies. Anyway, it's good stuff. It's a great finish off the evening. Could be a good beer float beer. It's just so damn good. There's a heavy coffee chocolate thing going on there that it's probably one of the better balanced versions of that I've actually seen. Also, earlier, I forgot a funny, when we were talking about furries, I want to jump back over to a hilarious thing that I happened to run into right before we went on with the show, and I grabbed a screen cap because this was something I thought wouldn't help make any of these weirdo QAnon fucks calm down, and it's the fact that they're like, I mean, they're Barbie furries. It's not going to make anything better, but they're fucking Barbie furries. I think it's funny, and I get that they weren't really going for that, even though I don't know how they didn't have a meeting and talk about what they were kind of doing. But anyway, I forgot that one. Back to the beer. Velvet Rush, really good. Always tasty. And yeah, it's good stuff. So what's your second? Oh, look at you. Oh boy. You wouldn't have these problems with incredibly large head if you like gave a fuck about your pour.
Well, no, but you want the head. Like you want to have the carbonation rise to the surface.
But you're over here like,
I didn't do that much. Just
no, okay, it's settling down. So what you got there?
So we have Southern Grist, which is a great Nashville brewery. They do a lot of lighter stuff, which is not normally my bag. But they do it really fucking well. So, like they actually make a Pilsner that I enjoy. I fucking hate Pilsners. I have nothing but hatred and vile distaste for Pilsners unless they come from Southern Grist.
Yeah, I think I remember you telling me about that.
Right? I mean, I fucking hate them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try their Ddh Mixed Greens IPA. Oh, all right. So what's really good about this, and Southern Greens is good, or not Southern, but Southern Grist is good about this. It's got a really nice piney front end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm liking it because it retreats really quick, like in its own way. It does a Ukrainian assault team kind of thing, in that it hits and then it leaves.
I see what you did there. That's funny. DDH. What's the DDH?
I have no idea.
Oh, double dose hops. That's what it is. For the first time ever, we gave our mixed greens a double dose of dry hops.
And maybe that's what it is. It's so hopped. It is so hopped that it actually just like does the piney thing with a little bit of lemon, and then it just fucks off.
Nice. Is it a cut the grass and drink it beer, or is it a sit back and savor the IPA?
I'm going to call this a cut the grass and drink it beer, but simply because this is seriously like, a one night stand in a glass. I mean, like it hits and then it leaves.
Nice.
There is no back end to this beer. It doesn't exist. It's just boop, boom.
Well, your timing is unfortunate that you would reference one night stand, and then the next thing I have to say is to introduce one of our female viewers. But hey, Sharma's here. Hi. If you missed it last week, she joined us. And was an excellent guest co-host.
She got to see me really fucking drunk afterwards.
She's been invited to come back anytime, and it's great to have you here. And then Andrew said, like a punch in the tongue and out. Stick and move.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a stick, and the move is to leap out the window. I mean,
so
that's
it's
what
like
this
the
is.
Batman talking to Jim Gordon of beers.
Right.
There.
That is what this is. Like, I mean, here's the thing. While it's there, I don't mind it. It's got a very pleasant, piney,
Yeah.
citrus note.
When you
It's
turn
not
around
too
and
harsh. But then it just bugs the fuck out. There is no back end to speak of.
That's not a bad thing though. That sounds like what's the percentage? 6.2. You can't even get in trouble on that one.
No, you can't.
Well,
That's what I said.
mean,
Like, it is a mow the grass beer. Like,
if
but
you're like
I
100
will
pounds,
say this:
maybe.
as compared to most mow the grass beers, this is much more forward. Like, it's going to, if you weren't expecting it, which I've been drinking stout for a good portion of the evening, so that front end may be a little bit dulled for me.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see if you weren't expecting it, this is gonna it's gonna be crisp, right? It's not quite a beta like New Orleans sewer water meets pine sol.
Damn.
By the way, I don't like a beta.
But
it is that same sort of
Andrew says you could drink it faster. Yeah.
because it has no
Slam
back
it.
end. It literally just hits and then disappears, and it's almost like a cotton candy, right? Cotton candy, like you take a bite, you get a little bit of sweet in the tongue, and then it dissolves, it goes away. That's exactly what this is doing. I can't hate it for it. I don't mind it. I wonder what would happen if it was canned. Because right now I'm drinking it out of a growler, and I'm wondering
if it got to hang out for a while and get some age.
I'm wondering what would happen with a more contained carbonation on it.
Yeah.
If it had a little bit more contained carbonation on it, as opposed to being a draft, because I mean, like I keep my growlers very sealed. I'm wondering if it was a can or a bottle, how that would translate. I think it would be a much more Andrew, I think it would be a much more grass cutting beer if you saw this in a can. I would drink this as a grass cutting beer or a watching the kids beer, or other things that you would do in summer.
Well, I think that the onset of cutting the grass and less shit-tastic chilliness.
I cut my grass the other day.
That can only mean one thing, David. It's that time of year. So you
mean my sister's birthday?
You said we should talk about taxes. You said we should talk about taxes tonight, and I said yes. I'm all in because up here we have 3. So
I know, right? You were like you were so pissed about like I have a city tax.
Well, it wasn't that I was caught off guard. No one really told me ahead of time. Hey, by the way, Grand Rapids has a tax of their own. So our checks are. Your summer sounds different than mine. Just got to mow more grass and drink more IPA. So we have a city tax, a city income tax, and state income tax and federal income tax. Now you can file 2 of those with your standard online, TurboTax and H&R Block. The city one, you have to just go file it with the city. I don't mind. And part of this conversation is,
at least you get to deduct it.
Right. And part of this conversation is the fact that I don't mind, right? Like the fact that liberals understand you get what you pay for, and that some motherfuckers should be paying for it. And that's kind of the general.
I'm shocked that you all have a better public transit system than we do. And
are you though? Because apparently we pay $600.
Really? No, I'm not. I'm not actually that shocked.
So, and we can go a lot of ways with this, but one of the things I asked you earlier was, boy, wouldn't this be a great thing in Nashville? But it's prohibited in the state constitution in Tennessee.
Yeah, because you were like, oh, like find me the law. I'm like, no. I don't have to go to like find a section. In Tennessee, income tax is unconstitutional. And what's even more bullshit is the one constitutional sort of taxation of income that we had, which was what we call the Hall tax, which was a tax of capital gains, has been repealed by the state legislature. I love it.
Got to protect that old money. Got to protect the right to roll out of bed and not do any work. So, I was talking about the tax because I will say that it seems like a hell of a bureaucracy to have to build inside a arguably mid-sized city government. The form is a big fucking, tax form, and there's like a whole department for it. Though I will say that they got right back to me. Kudos on the customer service on that one. I sent an email at the end of the day, and sometime in the evening, they wrote me back and said, yeah, if you've only lived here for a partial year, you can't file online. The first year you have to do the paper. Unless you want to pay another $230. Like basically it's going to figure up a year and then I'm going to owe. So if I want to get what I was due, I had to do the paper version. That's fine. But I was looking at it like, this is a hell of a lot of overhead. It seems like there'd be a lot of other ways that you could raise this tax base. And then it was pointed out to me, yeah, but not really. Because if you're trying to get tax on the people that live here and use the resources, this is a good way to do it, because I could essentially find ways to not contribute. I mean, I work for a company out of town.
I just want to point out, Sharma, we all have to pay taxes. Sharma, we all have to shit. We all have to shit.
You don't know how she means that. She may think that tax chat is actually riveting. But it is that time, and a lot of people like to bitch and moan, mostly conservatives. I'm not mad about the taxes. It's easy to say if you aren't struggling, and there are people that are struggling. And I think what you brought to this equation, David, was the fact that at least one jack off in the GOP doesn't seem to give a shit if people are struggling. He's got a dumb fuck plan.
Give me that Rick Scott clip. Give it.
Here's Rick Scott, former Florida governor, current senator. Correct? Is that he's a senator, right?
Current senator, fucking Florida.
Yep. So former governor, current senator of Florida. Here's Rick Scott talking on Fox, covered by the Young Turks, which is the best way to watch Fox, is to just watch clips and discussion on Young Turks. That way, you don't have to lose as many brain cells. So here's Rick Scott getting called out for his dumb fuckery.
You recently put out an 11-point plan to rescue America, two of the big points of which are, quote, all Americans should pay some income tax to have skin in the game, even if a small amount. Currently, over half of Americans pay no income tax. It also says all federal legislation sunsets in 5 years. If a law is worth keeping, Congress can pass it again. So that would raise taxes on half of Americans and potentially sunset programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Why would you propose something like that in an election year?
Sure. Well, John, that's, of course, the Democrat talking points. It's a
No, it's in the plan. It's in the plan.
But here's the thing about reality for a second. First of all, let's talk about Medicare.
But Senator, hang on.
John.
So it's not a Democratic talking point. It's in the plan.
It's bad when you're a conservative piece of shit that gets called out lying on Fox.
Right.
It's just
so I had a professor in undergrad who believed all taxes were theft. And it was an interesting conversation. And in response, what I did to him was this. I rewrote page for page the entire U.S. tax code. I rebuilt it into 4 pages because I'm a giant fucking nerd.
Speaking of nerds, I was going to go with it, but I was glowing way too damn much with the dark room, so I had to get the light on. I forgot to turn the fucking light on when we started this. So now that we're talking about taxes, let's illuminate the...
Right? I rewrote the entire fucking thing. I'll be honest. It's not actually that hard to balance the budget or build a fair tax code.
Right.
But the problem is that we keep on trying. Why does our tax code keep on getting rough? Why does it keep on getting messed up? And it's because we keep on trying to make these giant carve outs for the rich.
Yep.
For rich people, right? The mortgage tax deduction, right, originally did not exist for middle class people. Middle class people just figured out how to take advantage of something that had been built in for what had been rich people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And it's so bass backwards for the rich to have this much of a problem with paying for the fucking services rendered, because they barely goddamn notice it. And I'm going to be real for a second. I'm not a big fan of some of the fucking benefits that I've been offered at different jobs, right? I have skipped out on insurance because I didn't want to pay for that bullshit. I didn't want to go practically fucking broke on something I'm almost never going to use in a legalized racketeering scheme known as insurance. And so I would bail out, right?
I don't get. I gotta be honest.
The idea. I don't get the idea that you know.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's just, bailing out on that idea is, well, stupid.
No, it's not. When you're under 50, it's not as dumb. I mean, the younger you are, the better of a choice it is. You can either go broke. First of all, I want to point out the comment before I let it linger too long. Olivia's so right. Florida does produce some of the worst human beings.
Hey, I want to show this one real fast too. Thank you, Sharma. Thank you.
Yes, this is the stuff you came for. You're in the right place. Brian says aloha. Brian's here, and he is a Florida man. But he's not he's not a made in Florida man. That's a very important distinction. So when I look at the benefits right now at my job, there's one bullshit benefit it's a legal aid service thing, okay? And we are, early 40s, so might as well have some fucking wills and stuff, and we don't, and we should do that, right? And so this legal services thing,
if you don't let me write your fucking will, I'm gonna fucking stab you in the neck, and then you'll really need money.
Sorry, bad example, but you get my point. It was like $5 a month, and I was like, fuck it, it's $5. I'm paid well enough. Fuck it. That's what the answer for rich fuckers should be about taxes. They're never going to goddamn notice it. And that's the equation they should be running. But no, they're basically gold-gilded fucking hoarders.
They really are. I mean, like,
they don't have any fucking use for any of it. It's become
a game of hoarding of how like what can I rank up my fucking already.
I don't need that many pencils, but I've got them, and you don't. So fuck you. That is exactly what they're doing.
I mean, well, no. You know what this is? This is. I have 2,199 editions of the New York Times stacked in this corner of my house. And how dare they? How dare they try and take 50 of them away? I mean, it's
so dipshit Rick Scott wants to punish everybody. Mostly,
they actually did a study. They actually did a study. Like folks. The most you can possibly spend per year and have enjoyment from it is $500,000. $500,000 is the absolute most that you could possibly spend in a year and have enjoyment. I would like to clarify. I have an exception to this. If I had $4 trillion, the most enjoyment I would have from it would be canceling all student debt immediately by buying it all up and then just canceling that shit.
Well,
I would have a lot of enjoyment over that.
I have this weird.
I'm not gonna lie. I'll be sitting there. I mean, like having a beer with Fetterman.
I have this weird Pollyanna fantasy that if I ever made it like mega rich, which I'm not going to fucking do, right? Like I'm 44 and I'm not, further along than comfortable middle class right now. It's not going to fucking happen unless I won a lottery or something. And in my bizarrely not prudish gambling state, I could win the lottery online any day of the week. But I keep holding out hope that one of these rich assholes will be a en fuego liberal and just walk around and do exactly what the fuck you just said. Just, hey, you know what? I'm going to like somebody at Bezos level. I'm not saying Bezos because he's a shithead. But somebody at Bezos level going, you know what? Fuck this. Student debt. Wipe it out. Here's the money. Done.
Well, but because not to all of them, like the way you get to that point in our society, because it is a social interaction. Because I've participated in this before, right? You've partially participated in this before. Of, hey, I need $1 million.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you remember this shit.
Yeah, let me go pretend like I like you and smoke some cigars, which I never do.
Right? Hey, I need $1 million.
But these guys are
I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back off that $1 million, and make you richer off your $1 million. But I you know what? If you can't give me $1 million, how about 750? You know what? If you can't give me 750, how about you give me 500,000?
Right.
No, if you can't give me 500,000, how about you give me 200? Anyway, this is what happens when you're angling for investment from people.
And eventually you've got somebody like me whispering, we can't even advertise for that budget.
Right? That's some fucking truth.
Andrew points out, wiping out student debt would make it possible for me to get a mortgage. And in the eyes, Andrew, of the old-fashioned, get off my lawn, picket fence dickholes in our culture, they don't want people like you to be able to be empowered with property ownership because they view property ownership as a ticket to the party in mattering.
Well, I want to point out,
they don't want you to do that. They don't want
a really
regular people to have money and power.
So I had a really awkward conversation one time. So in the lead up to taking the bar, you have to take a character fitness interview, right? And one of the aspects
36 that Lucas will never be a lawyer.
One of the aspects of the character fitness interview is you have to list all outstanding debts or debts of significant amount that have been covered. So I had about $10,000 worth of credit card debt that I settled with the credit card company for about $6,500. So
can that affect you passing the? They can't.
No. Well, it affects the character interview. Like, in other words, are you worthy of being a lawyer by your character? Yeah, right. And this guy got a little bit tweaked because he's like, so how does it feel that you, like, the credit card company lost out on $4,500 income? And
that's how it feels.
No, I straight up looked at him and like, they wrote the entire thing off on their taxes. I don't care. They got paid $10,000 even though I gave them $6,500. I came up with $6,500. My poor ass went and begged, borrowed, and stole $6,500 to make the collections agency go away. But the truth of the matter is, the credit card company took the entire $10,000 debt that I owed them and wrote it off and taxes. And so, in other words, me, you, and everyone else in here paid my $10,000 debt. This is one of my problems with the whole student loan issue. I want to point this out, which is when I don't pay my student loans, which I admittedly haven't in a bit, yeah, it looks bad on me on my credit report. It really looks bad. It's not good. But everyone else pays for it. Why? Because the credit card processor, not the credit card, but the student loan processor takes that off their taxes.
Right.
Right? It's why airlines, all American airlines, none of them make money. None of them make a profit at all.
Yeah.
So how do they continue to fucking exist? Well, because people keep on
Government
investing
titty.
in them. Why do people keep on investing in an industry that doesn't make any money? Because they get to write it off of their fucking taxes.
Brian points out if he were King of the Forest, by the way, I like King of the Forest. I usually use Lucastopia, but King of the Forest is a little more diplomatic. All public universities made free to students of that state. Absolutely. Andrew, everybody's getting boned except the company. And Brian went bankrupt, full judge event with a Mac store. Oh my God, the inventory, and still didn't get as screwed as most people with student debt. And that is definitely something that I've seen.
I'm not going to lay out the number that I owe because of law school, but it's fucking funny at this point. Like it's really like one of those numbers goes like, you owe what?
Yeah. Well, and so
Lucas knows the number. The number is funny. The number is just like
part of it's funny because the discrepancy, and I think this speaks to Brian's point of university being more accessible.
well, but I want to clarify.
The discrepancy is ridiculous for certain things, like.
Oh, it is. But I want to clarify one thing from the number that you and I both know, which is apparently I looked it up. I double checked. I triple checked. They've lost about $100,000 worth of my debt. I have no idea who lost it, but apparently $100,000 worth of my debt just simply fucking up and vanished.
The idea that I went to I don't know how to describe MTSU, a basic bitch run of the mill state school. The fact that I went to a state school at bargain basement price of about $1,200 a semester, dropped out and built a career for 20 years, versus you saddled with fucking law school debt. I mean, the equation is all kinds of fucked up, and we could fix a lot of it if we use a plan like Biden's plan. So when you contrast the Scott and Biden plan, you have Scott being enough of a dipshit to level the idea at his poor white voter base, that they should pay more or pay something, as opposed to maybe having good reasons to not pay anything. And then you have Biden just asking the mega rich, look, dickholes, pitch in.
I want to point something out real fast with the Biden plan, which is it's not nearly enough. It's not even close to fucking enough. And when I say not nearly close to fucking enough, I mean it is so. If this was a baseball game, right?
Yeah,
and the batter was at bat, literally the amount that he's asking the billionaires to pay would be if someone leveled a bunt so pathetic, the catcher actually stood and took the time to smoke a cigarette before they bent over and tossed it to first. I mean, it's that little, of what he's asking billionaires to pay. It's not even close to what they should be paying. We should be talking about. Honestly, we should be talking about fucking Ingrid Bergman rates, where accidentally, because of loopholes in Swedish fucking tax law, he ended up owning 107% of his income. You know what? If you're Jeff Bezos, you should end up owning 100% of your income.
You know, it's
about right.
It's unfathomable to me. And here's the reason why I resent it so much and why I argue so vehemently with people. Even situations like earlier when we touched on Tennessee taking away inheritance taxes. You have no right to exist in success and power behind the screen of a country
Bingo.
that provides your freedom, ensures your security, protects your interests, and supplies you with an endless parade of ignorant, broke-ass workers to keep you rich.
Wait. At the very least, at the very fucking least, Amazon and Microsoft should be sucking State Department balls like they're fucking chocolates.
The only reason any of these motherfuckers are rich,
for what they have done to promote them and protect them abroad.
the only reason any of these motherfuckers are rich,
just the copyright protection.
No one can bust down the door and take their shit like in so many other fucking places on the earth. I like can we get some West Wing music in the background? Thank you for the encouragement.
I want to put this out. There was a guy in the bar the other day with the last name Bartlett. I kept on referring to him as Mr. President, and he was so pissed off because
did he get it?
He was a right wing. No, he was a right wing nut
Oh,
job.
he got it. He just didn't like it. Brian points out Scott sucks. He's a white trash hero, and they deserve him. The rednecks down here love that lurch look. Yeah, right. What about physical education majors? They're the worst.
You know what? I've actually met a few of those, and you're not wrong.
Andrew points out that the government needs to clean up the mental health industry. Earlier, he was mentioning that he went to school and finished a degree in an underfunded field. You know, I think in our lifetime, Andrew, we're going to see a bit of a renaissance. It's going to take a while, and it's going to be fucking inexcusably slow. But I think we're seeing a renaissance in the mental health world.
I think we need to bring back the asylums.
When all of us are... that was some left field random. Hold that thought.
I'm just saying,
hold that thought. I was about to say some nice shit about mental health
without the water torture and shit. Without the water torture and shit, but we need to bring back the fucking asylum.
Okay, so where I was going with that was, it will all be 80, and we'll be looking at it going, well, it's a good thing we're finally getting our shit together on mental health in this country, but it might happen.
Oh.
What in the? Are you doing that manic thing where you forget what button to press so you can go pee?
Yes.
Okay. So Andrew had a similar reaction to where my mind went, which was no, bad David, no. So you know, and I look forward to when he can defend himself on this note. Obviously, as a nerd, when I think asylum, I think, you know, Joker, Riddler, Victor Freeze. So I realize that there's more to that in the reality of it, and it's pretty ugly. At the same time, I do kind of wish it was the 40s and I could just call the guys in the van to come get my mom. So I don't know where the happy medium is, but I can damn well assure you that we definitely don't have the support system that we need from the system. To be able to say, hey, this is not healthy. This is clearly a problem. How do we make sure help happens? I don't know if forcing people to get help is the answer, but make sure help happens. So Andrew pointed out, these are awful. Why would you say asylum? So defend yourself, David. How we ended up on asylums from taxes, I don't know.
Well, no, because actually they do fit into taxes, because that was one of the big savings that Reagan looked for, was gutting the mental health industry and government support for the mental health industry. You're right. Traditional asylums were awful, but the only problem is that the reason we have the level of homeless problem that we have in the United States right now is because we just simply took all the people who were not capable of supporting themselves because of mental illness, and we just threw them on the street. I mean, that was a great cost-saving measure, wasn't it? Except no, it wasn't.
Right.
It's dramatically cost-intensive, because now drugs, crime, everything else that happens, because people who would do better in a controlled monitored facility due to their mental condition, they're on the street because the families can't care for them. And also, I want to point this out, that in terms of taxes and economics, you don't get to claim a parent as a dependent, right? Even a crazy one.
Oh, is that an option? I should entertain it.
Yeah, right. Jesus, if I could do that.
David or Olivia points out, I'm with Dave. We need somewhere to safely care for and house people who are incapable of self-management, but the standards need to be super, super high for individual or involuntary committal or involved violent crime. And I would settle for codes at this point. It kind of appalls me that we're so goddamn independent that, the smallest personal window I can create here, I've got some family issues where my mom's property is in no condition to be habitable, but the county she lives in has a serious lack of codes. And I spent a better part of the last several years saying, if this were in Nashville, I could have handled it by now.
Yep.
It appalls me the things that we don't give a shit about as a society. And to avoid that rabbit hole of the family topic, the point of that is we just don't give a fuck. And we're happy not to give a fuck. We're happy to say this podunk county doesn't do hardly shit to support people, so fuck them and good for us. Right. Instead of bending over backward. I mean, I'm offended that even with good insurance, a good salary, I'm still going to have to shell out for fucking therapy. That shit should be fucking free for everybody.
And I want to work us back because we're working up to time right now. Back to the tax thing real fast, which is that the United States has one of the lowest tax rates for the wealthy in the world.
Yeah,
we currently have a Gini coefficient of 40 fucking 1. And I want to explain real quick because I know I've done this a long time ago on this show, but I want to repeat it one more time. The Gini coefficient is the level of inequality inside a domestic market.
Mm-hmm.
South Africa has a higher Gini coefficient than us. No other developed country has a Gini coefficient above 20. The only other countries that have Gini coefficients above 20 are ones with like warlords and shit.
Yeah.
We, on the other hand,
I mean, David, aren't we?
There is no logic to our fucking tax code.
We're just a whitewashed version of the same shit, though. I mean, we have warlords, but they make dick rockets and fly to space.
Those aren't warlords. Those are oligarchs.
But you get like
last I checked, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk aren't like trying to take over Austin with fucking AK-47s or
And I really don't like sounding like the woke, mega woke 28-year-old segment of the demographic that gets on my fucking nerves. But let me point out, I think we have to think about the idea that America does violence with economics.
Oh God! Oh yes, we do. And you know what? I don't.
I like how Brian put it. An oligarch is a lazy warlord. That is fucking perfect. That is exactly the right way to phrase that.
No, I don't want to give like credit to the fucking tankies who keep on being like, oh well, we are hurting Russians with our sanctions. I'm like, good, do it more, do it.
I missed this from Andrew. I'm not sure what case managers, I assume, is a CM. Sorry, lingo for me. So you have case managers committing 10-care fraud to bonus so they can have money, and the company turns its head because there's such a cash flow. I mean, the whole thing is corrupt and easily fixable, right? We tried to talk about this for basically my whole lifetime.
We could just have universal health care.
Universal health care, yeah.
On a federal level, that would solve problems.
And of course, we will be.
We actually do have this really cool thing that's a lot like universal health care right now, but it's only available to really old people,
right?
But we could just give it to everyone,
unless you vote for Rick Scott and his plan, in which case that shit gets thrown out every 5 years. First of all, if
Andrew, fund mental health. Yes, we should.
Andrew's vehement point: fund mental health directly. Yes, and fuck insurance. Fuck insurance in every sense of the word, right? In fact, we should probably have fuck insurance as a topic soon.
Yeah, we should.
So, Rick Scott's a poo poo head. I love it. So.
I mean,
right.
the entire point, the issue is that the entire U.S. tax code, as it stands right now, here's Lucas getting functional public transit, functional state services, and at least moderately functional federal services. Here am I in Tennessee, where I can't get functional city services inside the state's largest city. I can't.
Yeah.
Right? Because they aren't allowed to functionally tax.
And the state actively works against the city in a myriad of other ways.
Right.
I mean, taxes aside, the state controls
services where I live inside the state's largest city, or second largest city, technically. The state's wealthiest city by far. I am sitting here. There is a large discrepancy in America because of federalism of tax to benefit outcomes. And I would very much argue that we need to address this. But the more important thing is it needs to be addressed fairly, right? Because in Davidson County, the poor are taxed ridiculously heavily by regressive tax measures, as opposed to the wealthy, who are taxed only on the value, in reality, only on the value of their property. And granted, they're taxed somewhat heavily on the value of their property, but the problem is that the tag, and most people don't realize this. Most people who don't own a home don't understand this. The price you pay in property tax is actually in many cases baked into your mortgage, right? You actually, like, for instance, for me, I pay my property tax through the mortgage. I have to pay my property tax through the mortgage.
Well, and I remember you were digging in and freaking out a little bit to try to make sure you understood the changes in Nashville on the tax rate. And you were also, if I remember correctly, you were trying to calm your mom down.
Yeah, because mom was freaked the fuck out.
She was seeing the headlines that basically sensationalized and lied, saying, "Oh, Davidson County tax is going up 30%," when in reality it was going up like a fraction of a point. And you could choose to have that headline two ways. You could say, based on where it is, it's going up this much, or you could be an honest fucker and you could say, it's currently this, it's going up this much of a fraction of a point. And if you're old, you can freeze it. So calm the fuck down. And if you're rich, fuck you.
Actually, if you're old, you can't necessarily freeze it. And I learned that the hard way. You can't necessarily freeze it if you're old.
It does have variables and requirements, but it's probably not fair and not reasonable.
This is the bullshit about how American tax code works. It can be fucking simple. I rewrote the entire federal tax code in 3 pages for shits and giggles my freshman year of college. Why? Because I was bored and I had time. And I'm a giant nerd. But I like, none of this has to be that fucking complicated. The stupid part is, and I want to visit this just real fast. Biden is proposing an extra $20 billion off of billionaires over 10 years,
which is really low, really small. But
10 years.
David, that figures into almost everything else we talked about tonight. Reactionary, ignorant dipshits that don't understand realities like math. It's always, God damn, it kills me. And it has killed me for fucking my whole rational life. Like, I can't say adult life, because as a teenager, I was a teenager in high school when I had to look at Newt Gingrich and say, that's the enemy. I know my enemy. And Brian here, that comments and chills out on our show, we used to be fucking political adversaries at the turn of the century. I can't believe I fucking said that. And so, like, it always boggled my mind that people fall for stupid math. Like, $20 billion, you stupid piece of shit. Do you know how little that really is for you personally over the course of 10 years? Fuck off. Fuck all the way off. All the way off over the cliff and hit every fucking crag on the way down, you fucking greedy piece of shit.
Entire U.S. economy by telling Amazon that they have to break up and that their shipping department has to fuck off and their streaming service has to fuck off, and they can hold on to their online shopping department. There we go. How many more jobs have just been created?
Yep. Wield a little antitrust and a little bit of tax law, but yeah, I want to rewind just a second to point out, even if you give quarter to Rick Scott's dumb fuck idea of reviewing various services on a rotating basis, 5 years? Seriously?
That's the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard.
I'm going to use one of my favorite politically incorrect phrases. You fucking retard. 5 years?
You want to know what has trouble getting reauthorized every 5 fucking years? The Violence Against Fucking Women Act. Having an act about not raping women takes effort every 5 fucking years. Well, and you're going to renew Medicare every 5 fucking years? You worthless piece of smegma shit.
David invoked the word smegma. I think we're done here. But that's there's nothing outside of technology that you can reliably reevaluate every 5 years in our culture. There's nothing, not at all. Well, actually, no. I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, no. Bring that up.
What is it? Which one?
Olivia.
You got to do it. You're the one that knows what you want to talk about. Click the button, David.
So now I want to point this out, Olivia. I already mentioned this, that we somehow Tennessee got a better deal than New York did out of the Bill Stadium, which I want to point out. The Titans make more money than the motherfucking Bills, and yet somehow they got $1 fucking billion in New York funds. Right? Yeah, I know. Right? It's all there. It's all there.
I, on the rare occasion that I admit I was wrong, I need to expand on that. I said I was wrong. I am wrong. There is one other thing that you can evaluate in our culture outside of technology every 5 years. Old people's driver's licenses. Okay, now we're good. And Sharma points out social services were cut, because sports ball. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have hit the max mark on our scale, really partly because we're still getting used to this new format, and partly because my ass has been too lazy and busy to build a new show timer, which y'all don't know about, normally plays in the corner and tells us when we're out of fucking time.
I don't ever.
So we are at that mark, but it's been a ton of fun, and there have been several people here that didn't say hello. We say hello anyway. If you're here, always feel free to say hi. It's Olivia points out it blows her mind that we have to pay for NFL stadiums at all. Yep, rewind this show. We talked about that.
We kept coming back to NFL stadiums somehow in the course of this entire 2-hour conversation. We just kept on coming back to NFL stadiums.
We really did. And Sharma points out we don't have enough people to take care of the old folks, much less evaluate them. However, driver's tests are pretty accessible. They're just shittier depending on where you live. Looking at you, Murfreesboro. So anyway, it's time to wrap up, ladies and gentlemen. And currently, we are in a break, and the Preds are tied 1-1 with the Senators. So I'm going to go watch that game with my new.
Come on, Foxburg! Come on, Foxburg!
That's a weird effect. Look at that shit. That's crazy. And anyway. They fall off if you bump into them, so they're not perfect, but I like them.
They just look oily and gross.
That's all right, David. We'll get a sponsorship now that I've pitched these things, and you can have some new glasses. Oh,
I almost
boy.
wish I almost wish I had taken Red up on their sponsorship offer. I'm like,
It's not too late. We just have to, finish getting there. One more time for those that missed it at the beginning. We're going to move the show to 7 Central, 8 Eastern, trying to keep from interrupting dinner for so many people. If you're Mountain or Pacific time, sorry, sucks to be you. But the rest of us have been like working around your bullshit for all this time. Looking at you, Apple.
You live in LA, so you know what? You already knew what you signed up for.
Yeah. If you saw Will Smith smack Chris Rock and you were still eating dinner, then that's the way it rolls. Anyway, as always, we're very happy to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us. As you know, we don't give a shit if you do alerts because you'll watch it if you want to watch it. We're not pandering like that. We both have real jobs, but we enjoy this hobby. We enjoy sharing the nature of our friendship with you. So if you want to subscribe, like, and share, we would greatly appreciate that. Tell a friend, bring 6 or 8 of them to the next show. And that is all we have.
The sexiest beast ever.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we have for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, we will sign off. Good night.
Good evening.
And
good luck.